I have never played Gwent in my life. Hey, what's going on my YouTube street people? It's time for another review, and I'm actually doing it somewhat on time this time, unlike my boys review, which was done way after, but it still did a couple numbers. We're going to be reviewing The Witcher. Before I even jump into all of that, like, comment, subscribe, notification bell, share with your friends, family, and enemies, all that good jazz. Do not forget Instagram and Twitter are there as well. Background, behind the grounds, all that stuff, my memes and everything, it's all there. Go and check it out, see if you like it, hit that like and follow because it really shows your support. Definitely the same thing with YouTube and all that good jazz. I saw The Witcher, and first things first, I liked it. It was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this show. But why? In all honesty, let me preface, whatever it is. Let me do that to this. I've never played the games. I've never read the books. Like I said before, I never played Gwent or anything. I just know bits and pieces about the overall essence of The Witcher. The fact that it's based on a series of like 12 books or something like that, written by a Polish dude. And the game is made by a Polish company, CD Projekt Red, one of them, the same company that are making Cyberpunk 2077. And all that good jazz. That's pretty much the extent of my knowledge, and like there's magic in there and swords, and Geralt of Rivia, and he was in Soul Calibur 6 and he's a dope character. But beyond that, I don't know anything like about the lore or anything like that. So I kind of wanted this fresh-faced. But I assure you, after watching this show, I'm definitely looking into getting The Witcher 3. And I would definitely be looking to buy these books or at least borrow them from someone. So from the offset, what did I really like about this show? I think the standout for me personally, the acting. The acting by everyone in the cast is actually really good. It didn't feel like it was let down or anything of that manner. Like no one kind of gave a half-assed job. It didn't feel like they were just reading a script for a paycheck. It felt like they really cared about these characters. Maybe that's down to the writing of the show, which to attest to that is really good. But the acting definitely by Henry Cavill, who's Geralt of Rivia, the main character, the one that the books and the games from what I know of is based upon, does a great job of being Geralt. Like, I don't know the adaptation of it in that manner, but the character, I believed what he was doing. And the same thing with Freya Allen, who plays Ciri. It's good, and as far as I don't know Freya Allen's age, but I'm presuming that she is a young actress, no older than a teenager of whatever age it is. She could be in her early 20s, I don't know. But it was really good, and I believed that character that she was playing. And also there's Anya Charlotta, I don't know, but she plays Yennefer, who is a mage in this show. And these three are like kind of the main characters that you're going to be coming across in the show in various amounts of time and so on. But they're all really good. And like I said, Anya, special shout out to her. They're just, and you'll find out why in the show, but it's just all great acting by everyone, from the smallest character that you will never see again to the big three that are Geralt, Anya, and Ciri. And it's just wonderful to see a TV show that, for the source material, has such a grand following, and it's done such a great job of just acting, and I loved every moment of it. Visually, now, overall, visually it is absolutely amazing. There were a couple hiccups here and there. Like the opening scene for me, I was not a big fan of. It was obvious that it was a green screen, or at least it looked like it was a green screen, and that could attest to how bad it was. But it wasn't bad. It was just like, you knew that it was CGI, kind of had an awkward stutter towards it. Or maybe it's because I watch a lot of stuff where I can notice these little things. I don't think it's based on that, but there was that, and there's a couple of scenes like that throughout the series here and there where it's like, okay, I can tell that this isn't real. But apart from those kind of things, to me visually, I think what helps is that it was filmed like on location, if that's what it's called. I don't know, but it's filmed in real areas like in Hungary, the Gran Canaria, and a couple other cities and countries where it's actually filmed in a real area as opposed to a stage. And for me, when they do things like that, where the majority of a show or a movie is filmed in real locations, it adds much more to the atmosphere. And this show is only for TV, it's not on a big screen. So I couldn't imagine how good it would look on a big cinematic screen, which they could very well do a movie of The Witcher, a series of movies for that matter, in a kind of a James Bond-esque type thing, not necessarily changing the Witcher, but there are many different Witchers, so they very well could do something like that with a show like this. And if the show kicks off, because season 2 has already been announced, I don't see why they can't expand this universe even more than it already is. So I guess the crux of any show is the story, because as opposed to only having 2.5 hours, 3 hours of time, you've got 10 hours, 12, 13 hours to tell a cohesive story. And this show does an amazing job of a cohesive story. It's not a show that you can just kind of sit down and have on in the background, because if you do that, you will get lost. There is a lot of information that is given to you at points. It can be a bit confusing even if you are paying attention, if you're not used to how they are providing you this information. And because it's no spoilers, I won't go into that too much, but when you're watching it, if you haven't seen it already, you'll find out what I'm talking about. And if you have watched it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Admittedly, for me, it was a bit slow at the beginning, but I'm also an action junkie. I like to have a really good balance of story, talking, and action. But for me, there could have been more action. But like I said, I'm an action junkie, so I want more of that. But as an overall, I'm telling a story that has some action in there, or there's a lot of action and there's a story. They balance the episodes quite well with that. And when the action does happen, it looks amazing. It looks so good. It's unbelievable. The choreography that they have is great. Henry Cavill, when he's doing his action, maybe it's the practice that he's had from Superman, I don't know, but his sword work, which he definitely didn't do in Superman, is amazing. I can't remember the last time I saw an actor that, as far as we know, hasn't had sword training per se, do so well in terms of the action that they're doing and the tricky action that they're doing, because controlling a sword is not an easy thing to do. And Henry Cavill does it with such grace and experience. It feels like he really has embodied that character of Geralt, who's been doing the monster hunting since forever, and it's amazing. Once the overall story does kind of kick in, which for me felt kind of halfway through, so about 4 episodes in, because it is only 8 episodes, so it could be that I, being the action junkie, wanted more. Maybe the story kind of kicks in early for other people, I don't know, but for me it was about that kind of 3rd episode, 4th episode in, at that halfway type point. That's when it really kicks in and drives in, and once that happens, it is completely non-stop. But again, overall, the show is good open to close. And with the show being 8 episodes, that's literally 8 hours of a great TV show with very tight storytelling, tight character connections, and tight scenery that you get to see, where they go to scenes that you've seen before and you see new scenes that you haven't seen before. To be fair, there may be things that really directly relate to the book, where they're like kind of Easter eggs, you could say, where it's not necessarily important to that particular story, but because it happens in the book or the world of The Witcher, it is really good. I wish I knew more, because then I'd be able to tell you about those as well. As for things that I didn't like, honestly, I can't really say there was a lot that I didn't like about this show. It's a great story, it's great acting and everything. It is a very well-balanced show overall. However, there are the issues in terms of the action, which I've already touched upon. So really and truly, there's nothing I can say, you know what, I did not like this about the show. There were a couple loose ends in there that weren't, for me as far as I'm concerned, completed by the end of the show, but again, that's for season 2. For me, it kind of finished on a definite cliffhanger. I like when things finish and it's not cliffhanger bait, and this show for me, at the end of it, felt like cliffhanger bait, although it was a good ending. And if it did finish on that and there was no new season, I would accept it a lot more, because it is very open-ended and it does have an end, but it also doesn't have an end, because you know that there's a season 2. So my initial takeaways as I was actually watching the show and finishing the show was, for me, as someone who's never watched Game of Thrones, it was very Game of Thrones-esque from what I've seen of Game of Thrones. I mean, it's a fantasy setting, there's magic, there's dragons, there's dismemberment, there's all of these types of things with war going on, and maybe it's just the overall fantasy setting, but it did very feel reminiscent of Game of Thrones. But again, I've never seen it, so it could be a very wildly different show. But for me, it did make me think, you know what, as watching this show, maybe I could get into Game of Thrones. Many people told me to watch Game of Thrones. I never cared for it, to be perfectly honest, but this could be a good intro for me for Game of Thrones. So there is that aspect that I did watch this with the element of something else in mind as well. Overall, I do feel that the fact that I've never played the video games or I've never read the books, I was able to watch this from the point of a good show or a bad show or mediocre show or anything of that manner. And I thoroughly enjoyed it for that. A lot of things that I do watch, I know the history of in some way or another, but this for me was a fresh take on, I'm just watching something that does already have an established fan base, an established continuity and everything of that manner, but I could just watch it just as a TV show, not an adaptation. And I thoroughly enjoyed that aspect for it. And I think for me, that's what made this show better, because I wasn't looking out for anything. So if you've never read any of the books or played any video games, this is a great show to get into fantasy elements and to just watch a damn good show that's got some boobies and some sex and some good titties and all that good jazz and dragons and magic. I mean, there's a lot that's in there that I really enjoyed. So maybe I could watch Game of Thrones and enjoy it. I'm yet to actually care to watch Game of Thrones. So this is actually a pretty positive review. So what do you guys actually think of Game of Thrones and The Witcher overall? Do you think there's a connection for those of you that have seen Game of Thrones and The Witcher? Or do you just think this is a great show on its own and doesn't need to be compared to Game of Thrones or anything that matter? Do you think the season 2 will be actually as good as this season or as bad? Whatever your opinion was, let me know in the comment section below. As always, at the end of the video, in the beginning, like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, family, and enemies. Definitely hit the notification bell. All of these things show your support for me and the channel. I've got a podcast coming up as well, so keep an eye out for that. It'll be coming out in the new year because, well, as of the recording of this, it is the 30th of December, so I'm definitely not releasing anything before that time period because life is a real thing. Anyway, dudes, there's going to be videos in this area. Subscription here, like I said before. I still haven't signed up yet, so peace.